Thank you, everybody. Thank you for returning after your coffee break to the final session for this afternoon, the first day of the conference. My name is Mark Griffin. I'm from the University of Western Australia, one of the host partners of the International Mining for Development Centre with the University of Queensland. And this topic is particularly appropriate to the centre, the development of skills and leadership capacity. We have three really engaging and excellent speakers to talk to you around this topic and take some questions towards the end for a discussion and conversation. I'm really pleased to introduce this topic. As a researcher in the field of skills and leadership, I often think we know some things very well and some things very poorly. And we tend to know a lot about technical skills and how to develop them, and we've learned a lot about what leadership skills are and how they might grow and how people can work with each other. But we still know very little about how we embed leadership skills within cultures, within communities, within organisations, so that people see a culture of leadership and understand where they fit into a culture, what their role is, and how they will grow as leaders and skilled people. We actually don't know a lot about that, and I think the work being done in the development area has a lot to teach the entire research community and whatever the RGI index of the organisation about how we embed leadership and skills. And the three presentations today will each give quite a different and exciting perspective, I think, on how we might rethink about skill development and leadership. The first speaker I'd like to introduce is Mr. Antonio Pedro. He is the Director of the United Nations Economic Commission for the Africa Sub-Region Office for Eastern Africa. Antonio Pedro is a mineral exploration geologist with over 30 years of broad experience and exposure to development issues and management at national, sub-regional and continental levels. Throughout his career, he's held several managerial and leadership positions, including Director General of the Southern and Eastern African Mineral Centre in Tanzania, and Managing Director of several state-owned mining companies in Mozambique. As Director General of CIMIC, he led the modernisation and corporate restructuring process of the institution. He led the work of the International Study Group on Africa's mineral regimes, a major ECN initiative to ensure that Africa's mineral resources fully contribute to the socio-economic development of the continent in a sustainable manner. The IISG work culminated in the publication of the Minerals and Africa's Development Report. He also spearheaded the formulation of the Africa Mining Vision, which was adopted by the African Union Summit of Heads of State and Government in February 2009. So with that introduction and great experience, I'd like to introduce Antonio Pedro.
Thank you and good afternoon. I would like first to thank Ian and the IM4DC for inviting me to be here today to share with you some views about this very important topic. In February 2013, in Cape Town, in mining in Indaba, Mark Kutifani said that the extractive industry is a development industry. Phil Vernon, in a blog in 30th April, asked, is mining a development industry? I would like to posit that indeed it is a development industry. And that's what informed the formulation of the African Mining Vision in 2009. But the big question is how to realize that, how to ensure that an extractive industry which is based on non-renewable resources can indeed contribute to development. And I would like to suggest that that hinges on skills, on having the necessary capacities across all levels both at government, at national, subnational, and local levels, and in non-state actors as well. And so the topic, therefore, of my brief remarks today is about how to ensure that we develop the necessary skills to ensure that the mining contributes to development, that the extractive industry transforms itself into a development industry. And for that to happen, the kinds of skills that are required are skills beyond the traditional mining skills, beyond the geologists, the exploration geologists, the mining engineers, and we need skills to help countries plan better for the future. We need skills to equip countries to use their space more optimally. We need skills to help countries decide whether mining is indeed the best land use options. We need skills, as it was alluded to earlier this morning, to strengthen their capacity to negotiate better deals. The issue of transfer pricing is one that preoccupies quite a lot of policymakers, not only in Africa. Those skills are indeed required. So the current model for deploying and generating those skills is one that would require some review. As part of the African Mining Vision Implementation Program, we have we are in the process of establishing the African Minerals Development Center. And one of the results areas of the AMDC is on capacity development. Together with the Anglo Gold Ashanti and OSAID, we've now started an initiative which is called African Mineral Skills Initiative, which is exactly meant to achieve what I had started my presentation with, to develop skills beyond mining skills, skills to support countries to ensure that mining contributes to development, to broad-based development. What are the key pillars in the AMSI agenda? First is to help countries domesticate the African mining vision through an instrument which is now, we call it country mining visions. So a country mining vision is an effort to ensure that a continental instrument like the AMV is owned and finds expression into national processes and the political economy. Because I think you'd agree with me that mining is a very, very political sector. And without understanding the social dynamics, the political economy, the different sets of actors that intervene in mining, it's very difficult to realize this objective of transforming an extractive industry into a development industry. So country mining vision, support to the formulation of this country mining vision is one of the pillars of the AMSI. The second one is to support the resource corridors, development of resource corridors. In certain countries, like for example my country in Mozambique, you have mining located in remote areas very far from the coast. So you have an infrastructure, for example, between Moatize and Nacala. This is about 600 kilometers of rail lines, which if properly deployed could be used to open up opportunities in other sectors of the economy. I think in the morning there was a reference to development corridors. So a capacity to optimize this trunk infrastructure is not obvious. You need skills to use space strategically. So you need skills to synchronize mining with development. I'm sure you are aware of the problems that, for example, Rio Tinto and some of other operators in Mozambique had because of the fact that now the stock of infrastructure that is available in the country cannot support the levels of production. So this requires, therefore, capacity to synchronize those two developments. The AMSI also has a pillar on what we call the Challenge Fund. The Challenge Fund is aimed at inviting research institutions, teaching institutions into developing innovative means to producing skills. So the fund will therefore support that exercise. So what this model suggests is that it's possible to enter into public-private partnerships where mining companies will be part and parcel of an effort to develop skills to address their own needs and needs, of course, of the local constituencies. So another major constraint to realizing the development industry proposition is the exploitation of opportunities in the minerals value chain. And one of the major obstacles to that is that local entrepreneurs are not equipped to raise to the standards which are required by mining companies. So we have mining entrepreneurship development as part of the programs in the African Mineral Skills Initiative, meant, as I indicated, to equip local entrepreneurs to properly participate in the minerals value chain. I was a couple of weeks ago in Ottawa participating in a conference organized by the North-South Institute. And I was very impressed with the presentation made by Tech, where they were sharing with us their experience in developing capacity in First Nations in Canada, to the extent that some of those companies today are leaders in their respective areas of specialization. So more of this is needed. And as Paul Collier had mentioned in this presentation in the morning, if there's one thing that mining companies have best is their capacity to organizational capacity. So we, through the AMSI, would like to explore more of those opportunities and those experiences and make them available to countries in Africa with a view to ensuring that local entrepreneurs participate in the value chain, and through that process you realize and retain more value locally. Another area of expertise which requires attention is the entire issue of managing expectations. I think through the World Economic Forum we have developed a tool now, the Mineral Value Management Framework, which is basically to try and align the differences in perception of what constitutes value from different stakeholders, including private sector, governments, locals, society, local communities. And because without an effort to try and reduce the levels of difference on how value is viewed, you can easily arrive at situations where your social license to mine is eroded, and of course you have conflicts. That requires very, very specialized skills, skills that are sounded in a good understanding of social dynamics, and I mean, the lady from Papua New Guinea this morning illustrated the importance of how to understand the cultural aspects, what constitutes value to communities. I think her illustration of Papua New Guinea talks to the need to develop skills for this. An area which increasingly is becoming important is how to manage conflicts arising from bilateral investment treaties. As you know, many countries enter into BITs as part of an effort to increase their foreign direct investment. Yet, as you know, the BITs require equal treatment to investors. And some of the provisions in in the mineral policies of many countries in Africa talk about protecting local investors through local content provisions. That can be in direct contradiction with BITs. And countries can, without realizing it, be taken to international dispute settlement tribunals and so on, and they don't have capacity to engage in that kind of negotiation. So that's another area where we need to be very conscious of the need to develop capacity. So let me perhaps stop here by indicating that the business plan of the African Mineral Skills Initiative is ready and available for distribution. We'll have a session on Friday where we'll be inviting partners to come and learn more about the initiative and participate if they are interested. To date, as I said, the initiative is mainly between OSA8, Anglo Gold Ashanti, and UNECA. But we are open to more partners, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Ernesto Ciroli. Ernesto is the founder of the Ciroli Institute, and back in 1984, working in Esperance, a West Australian town I know some of you are familiar with, he implemented a development program that approach based on harnessing the passion, determination, intelligence, and resourcefulness of the local people. The striking results of the Esperance experience have prompted more than 350 communities around the world to adopt responsive, person-centered approaches. Enterprise facilitation has been documented in Dr. Ciroli's book titled Ripples from Zambezi: Passion, Entrepreneurship, and the Rebirth of the Local Economy. It's been adopted as a textbook in many academic courses in community and economic development, and the book has helped to introduce enterprise facilitation to a new generation of economic development practitioners. But books can only do so much. And recently, Ernesto, a few months ago, presented a TED Talk. And that TED Talk was not only very successful, it went somewhat viral. And there have been now 1.2 million downloads of Ernesto's TED Talk. And I think that's, in talking about skills and communication, a great credit to the work you're doing, and perhaps a challenge to the IM4DC conference to get our tweets and retweets up to over 1.2 million on your talk. So welcome, Ernesto.
Yeah, that was kind of amazing because I'm an old fogey and never believed in the internet and all this social stuff. Social networks, I say, oh, no, that's not going to work. And then when it works, oh my God, I am going to Rome at 3 o'clock this morning for a conference on the pharmaceutical industry, the American pharmaceutical industry. And I will be in Mongolia in a week. I've been going around the world. The talk that I gave, the title was Shut Up and Listen. And I think that people downloaded it because I made fun of myself. And I told the story of my very first project in Africa when I was working as a volunteer for an Italian NGO. We decided in Rome what to do for the development of the Zambian people. And we decided in Rome, sight unseen, that what the Zambian needed was to learn about Italian horticulture. So we arrived in Zambia and we started to plant tomatoes and zucchini and broccoli. And as soon as the tomatoes were ripe, the hippos came out of the river and they ate all the tomatoes. And when we look at the Zambian, they were laughing so hard, they had tears down their faces. You know, and we said, did you know about the hippos? And they said, yes, that's why we have no agriculture here. I thought that we were good people doing good work in Africa, but after working in Zambia, Kenya, Ivory Coast, Algeria, and Somalia for 6 years, and seeing what we were doing in Africa, I became totally demoralized and totally embarrassed by how inept, corrupt, culturally arrogant we white people were. We always arrive to tell local people what to do, and we are very surprised when they get offended. And it's very difficult for us white people to understand why they get offended, because we have never experienced anybody coming into our house uninvited to tell us what to do. Nobody does it to us. So we are bereft of the experience of somebody uninvited coming in our living room to tell us how to educate our children. We have never experienced anybody doing that to us because we are white people. Nobody dares. We will shoot them. In fact, in Texas, I gave a presentation in Houston, 2,000 people in front of me, and there was this guy, this gentleman dressed like a cowboy, and I said to him, what would you do if somebody from another race, another culture, another religion will come uninvited into your living room to tell you that you should be ashamed because your daughter is running around with the boys in cars where your daughter should be veiled and stay at home? Therefore, you are a horrible father. And I said to this Texan guy in Houston, what would you do? And he gave me the caliber of the bullet that he would use to shoot me with. 357 Magnum with a hollow point, the explosive bullet. And I said, you don't like it when somebody does it to you. Do you realize that this second, there is one of us entering uninvited a house in an Aboriginal community around the world to tell that father and that mother how to educate the kids? We are the most arrogant people in the world because we come from a culture that is imperialist, colonialist, and missionary. We should be ashamed of ourselves. My life changed when I read Small is Beautiful by Ernest Schumacher in 1975. The book was written in 1973. Chapter 13, check it for yourself. The title of the chapter is Development in India. Schumacher wrote something that was, for me, impossible to understand. He wrote about development. If people do not wish to improve themselves, leave them alone. This should be the first principle of aid. And for the life of me, I could not understand what he was talking about. If people do not wish to be helped, leave them alone? Since when we ask the African people if they want us there? Never. For years working in development, I cannot remember a single project where we were invited. We show up. We show up and we tell you how to live your lives. When I understood what Schumacher was talking about, I understood what is the first principle of aid. And when I understood that, I wanted to die. The first principle of aid is respect. If you don't respect them, you cannot help them. Respect. Oh my God. Schumacher said the only condition upon you can work in a community is upon invitation. If they don't invite you, you are not supposed to go there. No matter if you believe that you are God's gift to humanity, guess what? You still cannot go there. I have a dream, and the dream is that we are going to have a community happiness index. So the mining companies do not bid for the license. They have to deserve it. I want mining companies to become so exquisite in partnering with community that indigenous communities around the world say, I want to work with that company. I want Ume to be able to say, I want to work with that company. You come to develop our resources, you guys, because I've seen what you've done in other communities around the world. Mining companies have the perfect opportunity to become partners in development. And our strategy is to teach the mining companies that care to listen to us that there is a methodology. The methodology is called enterprise facilitation. If invited in a community, you train a local person to help anybody who wants to do anything to improve her lot, to improve his lot, to do it beautifully. So, 3 years ago, we've been invited in the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, that has been mentioned today as the absolute horror story for mining today by a number of you. And 3 enterprise facilitators. We have trained 1. We got this guy to come to us, and we trained Fabrice. You may be lucky to meet Fabrice because he's invited to speak at this conference, but he's been stuck in Lumumbashi, so we hope that you will be able to meet him. Fabrice was trained by us. He started to work in his community, trained 2 more enterprise facilitators in 2 years, 190 new businesses, employing 750 people, without giving a cent to the local entrepreneurs. Pure management coaching. Pure management coaching. The lady with the farm outside of Camina, she's breeding chickens. She only sells to the people coming at the farm gates. The enterprise facilitator sits with her and says, if you want to be successful in business, the business has to do 3 things beautifully. The product is to be magnificent, marketing has to be exquisite, financial management has to be very, very good. We have never met a single person in the world who can do these 3 things beautifully. What can you do beautifully? She says, breed the chicken. Do you know somebody in your family who could take the chicken to the market to do the marketing? She says, yes, but I don't have the money to pay the person. Can you increase the price of the chicken 20%? She says, no, because I will lose, I don't know whether my chicken will sell. Yes, your chicken in the market in the city sells for more than 20%. So now you can pay somebody 20% to take the chicken to the market. Do you know somebody who can help you with the books? No. Would you like us to find you someone who, in exchange of a chicken a month, will do your accounts? Pure management coaching. 750 jobs. In the Congo, in the DRC, what are the opportunities right now in Mongolia? I could not believe when I went to Mongolia what I saw. The community close to Oy Tolgoi, young couple. He's the brother of the guy with the grocery shop, husband and wife. They have all the machinery ready to produce Mongolian noodles. They only work the machine 1 day a week because they don't have a market that is big enough. There is a mine where every meal, morning, lunch, and evening, 1,200 workers have to be fed. Why aren't we getting those people to produce the noodles for 1 meal on the mine per week? Just 1 meal will get this young couple in that community absolutely enthusiastically supportive of the mine. We are missing something here. You guys have been talking top down, except Dorothy. Dorothy said, you're not going to close the gap from the top. We have to close the gap from the grassroots. And can you listen to the grassroots? If you have studied planning, you cannot listen to the grassroots. Let me tell you why. The golden standards of planning is community consultation. Guess what? Community consultation does not work with local entrepreneurs. because local entrepreneurs will never in a public meeting tell everybody what they want to do with their money. So the entire planning profession is suffering from a scotoma. Scotoma is the technical term for a blind spot. Guess what? The golden standards of planning do not apply to entrepreneurs. You want to capture the passion and the energy of the entrepreneurs? You have to invent a completely different system, a completely different social infrastructure. It's a convivial infrastructure. The enterprise facilitator works one-on-one in absolute confidence with anybody in the community who wants to do anything. Social enterprise, and a commercial enterprise, and one by one, you grab the passion of the local people, and you help these people go from poverty, misery, despair, solitude, and you form a team that can take this little idea all the way to having people with a smile from ears to ears. Umei. We will forget every other speaker, but we're not going to forget Umei. Umei talked about poverty, despair. And she asked one question that is absolutely extraordinary. She says, how can you consult with people who have such primitive, limited vision of their own lives? That's a challenge for planners. She might have got the planners in this room to squirm. How can you consult with people who do not know? Enterprise facilitation works with a person at the level she is now. And if her dream is to sell more bananas, we help her to sell more bananas. But the enterprise facilitator is employed for the length of the life of the mining company. In fact, we want the enterprise facilitator to be employed at the exploration level. And then you have the enterprise facilitator following that community for 20, 30, 40 years. My first enterprise facilitator is still there, 27 years. In Esperance, in Western Australia, we have had only 2 enterprise facilitators in 27 years. We celebrated 20 years of enterprise facilitation, and the chair said to me, Ernesto, we have helped to start or expand 800 businesses in Esperance. So my point is that you follow the community for the life of these people, generational changes. So when the people know more, you respond with more. You're always there. The enterprise facilitator works from home, is a local, speaks the language, understands the culture. He's not a foreigner. We train the local person to play this role. And when you have the local person who lives there, who already shares everything with the local community, and now works in confidence one-on-one with anybody who wants to improve her lot, his lot, then you start to see absolute extraordinary intake. 2,000 people spoke to Fabrice Ilunga Mushinga in Camina in the first 2 years. 2,000 people went to see Fabrice. So I think that mining companies can employ enterprise facilitators. They can pay them local wages. Don't pay local people Western wages, because that person will be hated in the community. And in terms of building infrastructures, guys, that's so easy for you and for the mining companies. You build infrastructures. I've seen what happens to the best hospital in Amapari in Brazil. I've seen what happened. Built by a mining company that has been in the community for 45 years. The best rural hospital in the state of Amapari, the best rural school, all the roads were sealed, and the community had free electricity. 45 years. And when we show up with a new mine, the old mine had been closed for 9 years. No trace of the hospital. The roads were impassable and no electricity for the last 9 years. You build infrastructures. If you build infrastructure, make sure that you will pay for the doctors and the teacher in perpetuity. Otherwise, what have you built? That's not a hospital. A hospital with no doctors is not a hospital. So enterprise facilitation is talking about look at what's there, look at the passion of local people at whatever level, whatever they want to do, and you help them transform their lives. And you are going to have gratitude, you are going to become partners in economic development, and you are going to see something that is under your nose and you've never been able to capture. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ernesto. I'd like to introduce our third speaker for the afternoon, Mr. Peter Mears, who is Director of Developments at Fortescue Metals Group. His responsibilities span from exploration through studies and project development through to delivery of major capital expansion projects. As part of this, he has direct responsibility for the delivery of Fortescue's current 100 million tonne expansion and development of the plans for future developments to 355 million tonnes. Prior to commencing at Fortescue Metals in 2010, he was Managing Director at Worley Parsons. Peter was a key contributor to the growth and development of Worley Parsons, and during his time, he actioned project management and company development roles, including establishing the foundations of the process business, the establishment and growth of alliance and integrated service contracts in hydrocarbons and minerals and metals, and the development of the New Zealand business. So I'd like to welcome Peter Mears.
Thank you, Mark, and it's great to be here today. Wasn't that a fantastic presentation? I'm going to talk a little about the development of Fortescue and some of the things that we're doing, and I really feel that some of these will be relevant to the topic we've been talking about here, developing human capacity and leadership for change. This is where Fortescue operates in the northwest of Western Australia, in the Pilbara. And the Fortescue Metals Company started nearly 10 years ago in 2003 with a vision that China needed more iron ore, needed more steel to develop and keep urbanising, and that the Pilbara still had resources that could be developed by someone. And since then, Fortescue has established 3 new mine sites, about 500 kilometres of rail, and a complete new export port at Port Hedland. By the end of this year, Fortescue will be producing 155 million tonnes, which will still leave it as the 4th biggest producer of iron ore in the world, but very close to the 3rd. And that's quite an achievement. Now, the vision that Andrew Forrest had back in 2003 was that simple one of the need that China had and the potential for iron ore in the Pilbara. At that stage, he didn't have a single tenement and not very much money. But he also had a vision about the type of company that he wanted to create. And that was a company that had very strong values around leadership, values around family, respecting the family. But he had a particular passion, and that was to provide employment for Aboriginal people. Andrew grew up in the Pilbara. He grew up on a cattle station called Minderoo, his family cattle station, which they lost later. There are Aboriginal people living on that station with him, and his best friends as a boy were Aboriginal boys and girls, and they continued to be his friends for his life, but many of those young people only lived to 30 or 35 or so before they passed away, and that really touched Andrew. And so he has had a great passion to eliminate disparity in Australia and do something for Aboriginal people. And he has felt to do that through employment in particular. So one of Fortescue's absolute objectives has been to increase employment and provide employment for Aboriginal people. And to do that, and it's a company-wide, very, very strong passion, we've introduced a vocational training and employment centre called VTech. And VTech's not like a normal training centre. VTech focuses on training local people in the Pilbara, and I think 70% of the training is on lifestyle skills and about 25% of the training is on technical skills. So in that training, we help Aboriginal men and women to get a driver's licence. We teach them about opening a bank account, about owning a house, about a family budget, teach them about coming to work on time every day, and other requirements that you need to be able to work. It's a tough course. Every day you get tested for alcohol and drugs before you start at 8 o'clock in the morning. You have to complete the course, but on completion of the course, you get a job and a house. And this has been a transformational thing for now over 1,000 Aboriginal people in the Pilbara who are actively working. And I'll show you some statistics in a moment. We also have an Aboriginal business development policy. So we're just completing a $9 billion project. And at Fortescue we said, well, we will award $1 billion of that $9 billion to Aboriginal corporations as part of that development. Now, when we said that, as the Director of Development at Fortescue, I couldn't believe it. $1 billion of $9 billion, how is that going to be possible? And it's proven to be impossible. We haven't managed to get to $1 billion in our development, but we have spent $650 million with Aboriginal corporations, which is transformational for them. The other thing in the community, and this doesn't relate to Aboriginal engagement, but at Fortescue, our approach to developing projects is kind of unusual. We say, well, we don't really know how to do this. What we'll do is we'll go to the community of contractors and suppliers, and we'll ask them, what is the best way to do this work? And as a result, we get the input from those companies, and we also use a lot of second-tier contractors in implementing our projects. So we don't go to the big proven players, we go to the local companies that have developed capability, and we say, we will help you to take another step so you can participate in our projects. And that's been incredibly successful. A number of our contractors, NRW and others, RCR Tomlinson right now is an example of this. The projects they're doing for Fortescue are twice or 3 times the size of anything that they've done before. And as a result of implementing those projects, they will be great success stories in the future. But what we get for Fortescue for doing that is we absolutely get their attention. We get complete commitment. This is the biggest thing the company has ever done. Do you think they're going to fail? Of course not. And so our projects tend to finish about twice as fast and about 30% for less money than our competitors in the resource industry. And that's been a bit of a legend that continues. And we work with native title owners. We had an example of that in the previous session, and we have a big focus on heritage as well. But this Aboriginal engagement's very special to us. Now, this is a typical group of graduates from a VTech course. When you graduate from the course, you have a job and a house. You also get a fishing rod in the graduation ceremony as a symbol of teach a man to fish. The great thing about our Aboriginal employees is the retention rate is twice as good as our standard retention rate. So not only are people getting jobs, but they're continuing, they're working for us, and it's a highly successful program. This is where we are today. We currently have over 427 Aboriginal people employed directly by Fortescue. We've got 418 Aboriginal employees employed by our contractors. We have 11% of our workforce comprise Aboriginal people today. That doesn't include the ones employed by our contractors, and our target is to get to 20% of our employees. And that's where we are in contracts. As I said, $630 million awarded, and additional contracts awarded in our actual mining activities going forward. Now, what I'd like to do is show you this brief video, which is the story of some Aboriginal people that work for us. We've just gone up and asked them to talk.
We all come from a pretty violent home. We hardly went to school and stuff.
And then I started drifting around, a bit depression was starting to set in. I started hanging around with all the people that drank a lot, and
I started getting into drinking and just partying and didn't really do much with my life, and then I dropped out of school and everything.
Most of my 20s I spent in jail, pretty much all of them.
I was on heroin for 15 years. Hooked, absolutely hooked. I was useless, and on the welfare, was struggling to feed me kids. I got 6 kids, and
we can sort of feel like welfare's okay, but it's not.
When the kids asking me, well, when are you going to go to work, Dad? And it hurt. Big lump was in my throat. I didn't know what to say to them.
And if I could go back, I'd really stick to schooling because it helped me in more ways than one at the moment now. Yeah.
I just thought, stuff it. One day I thought, I've got to get off my ass and do something for my family, my own family, and earn some respect back. And
The day I wanted to get off Centrelink was the day I found out about the course through VTech.
Because I went to VTech to enroll in there, started my business certificate 2 in business at Plenary. It was, I'm getting up in the morning and going to do some study. I do want to get a job at the end of this, so.
Came to the local VTech office there, and they got me to fill out an application, and then I didn't just fill the application. I came back every day. Well, I think it was nearly 2 weeks straight, and annoying them. I said, give me a chance. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 generations that have been on welfare all of their life, and I don't know, they probably think they can't get out of it. And I was thinking along the same lines, thinking, that must be it. We're just here to stay drunk all the time and drink our lives away, and there's no hope, but there's hope, all right.
So it goes, another lonely day. You're saving time, but you're miles away. Your flowers drowning in some bitter tea. You're seeing life's opportunity.
my focus ended up being on my children, and then their children after them. What are they going to think of me if I don't do anything now? And I just got onto it, got a job.
Being employed means so much pride in yourself. It just brings you so much pride in yourself.
And I can't even describe the way I feel inside. I think my smile tells it all.
So working really does make me feel good about myself.
I feel good. I feel really good about what I do and what I have achieved to get there.
I never really owned my own house. That's something I'm looking at,
That decision I made back then in the back of that car on my own, because no one else was going to make this decision for me. I knew it was up to me.
I haven't looked back since, really.
And my youngest brother just graduated last year from year 12, and that was the highlight of the whole brothers and sisters and us.
I'm proud of myself because I got up and I wanted to do it, and I got out and I did do it.
I'm really trying to be somebody that my family can be proud of when they think or talk about me,
My kids, when they look at me now, they don't see what they've seen before, and they're inspired, I reckon.
Stop with the government handouts. Like, no one owes you a living, and it all comes back to you in wanting to better your life.
You get them hands-on training, they will do it. They will do the job.
My advice for young Indigenous people is to take the challenge. Grab it with both hands.
Never give up. And, no matter how bad you think things are, just keep on going.
Things do get better, and it's up to you to make it
what you want it to be.
But live a happy life. That's all I want is for me to live a happy life and grow old.
You just gotta get up and yes, have a crack. Red hot go.
And we don't want to be left behind. We've probably been left behind too much. We'll be the sleeping giants. Us Aboriginal people.
Thank you very much, Peter, for that presentation. And thank you all. We've had three, I think, really informative, engaging and diverse presentations covering a United Nations perspective, an entrepreneurship facilitation perspective, and the perspective of a major mining group in Australia. So I'd really like to thank our three, but we do have a few minutes where we could take a couple of questions for Antonio, Ernesto, or Peter, if we have a moment and someone has a question from the audience. One over here. And just introduce yourself first, please.
Yes, my name is Jeff Hart, and I'm here on behalf of AMEC, the Australian African Mining Industry Group, with our CEO, Trish O'Reilly. I was interested in the first presentation by Ernesto, and just to get the detail, it's really a factual question. You mentioned the meeting on Friday. I guess this is in the ETI context. Where is that meeting that you're talking about for the pledging conference?
Oh, okay. Where's Andrew?
So it's not here. It's not in.
No, it's not going to be here. But well, I'll provide you details.
Okay.
Yes, but we'll be very interested to have you there. So we'll discuss more details about the initiative. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to be here in Sydney, but I don't know exactly where. But we can provide you details once we are outside. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question over here.
Merci.
Then one up there.
I don't know if I'll try to speak in French, but it's not good for everybody. So I will try to tell you in English. I hope that my English is good. I will try. My question is going more for the first presentation. Concerning the development, I think that the development is a part of our history, and we should speak about sustainable development, which is something different. The question is concerning the relationship with the companies and investing in our countries. You're speaking about three main, comment on dit ça? Yes, but I would like to point out other points. First of all, mastering the cost for the state, local content. Why I'm speaking about that? I think that contract or agreements are made between companies and states, and when the companies have to pay taxes, they have to take into account the cost and the reimbursement of their investments. And the investment is based on what the country has to give back to the company to put in motion the reimbursement of the investment, which means that there is somewhere an agreement between the companies and the local government. And there is somewhere a part of an agreement where the people can make the local content, which is a big basis for the development of the countries, which is not so much involved in the third party that I would like to put in motion, the negotiation. Negotiation with local content part should be now one of the main things that the states should speak about. The second thing is the execution of the contract. We make a big point on the contract negotiation. We have to see also how the contract will be executed, and that is very important for the development of the countries. I would like to know what is your feeling about those points. And my last point will be to Monsieur who speak about two things. When you say that it's not good for people to have a big wage because they may have some difficulties in their communities, I say no. These typical thoughts were said 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Why you should give so much money to those people? Do they need it? You should say that we should evaluate. We need a good development. Because if the international development is not coming to us, if we are not prepared to this development, they will destroy our culture and traditions. We should have by ourselves the means to say what we need and what we don't need.
Before we run out of time to answer the question, thank you for that.
Okay.
Quite a few.
Okay,
if
I
Antonio,
forgot to say, I'm Michel Okoko coming from the Congo,
Thank
Republic
you.
of Congo, Congo-Brazzaville.
Okay, thank you very much for this very valuable comments. First of all, you'd recall that I did mention an instrument that the World Economic Forum has developed, which is the value management framework. And in that framework, there are 7 dimensions of value, of benefits that have been identified, from the revenue streams, that is basically royalties, tax, and so on, to infrastructure development, to diversification, linkages, value addition, to environment and social dimensions. Because different stakeholders understand what constitutes value differently. For example, local communities, and again, this morning we had very vivid testimony on that. Local communities may value their environmental and, systems more than, for example, governments would do. So this framework tries, therefore, to try and reduce to the minimum the differences in this understanding. So what I'm basically trying to suggest here is that local content may be a dimension that could be important to a very specific jurisdiction, but might be different to in other jurisdictions. And it might be possible to realize in one place, or might not be that possible. And the same applies to linkages, value addition, and so on. So, an important part of the formulation of the country mining visions that I mentioned earlier, and which is part of this skills initiative, is indeed to try and first bring all the stakeholders together to try and align their understanding of what constitutes value, and then interrogate a series of variables. First, your initial conditions, whether your aspirational goal to realize local content or value addition is realistic or not. Then look at the enabling factors and then do the same exercise. And then once all of those differences are sort of reduced to the minimum, then you can have a vision which is owned by everybody. Because that's a very important factor for you to be able to realize and to make the transition from an extractive industry to a development industry, is that the vision is owned by as many stakeholders as possible, is realistic and can be realized. Then, of course, I would agree completely with you that it's important to have a capacity to then enforce and implement whatever you would have agreed as part of your vision. And again, that's part of my argument here, that you cannot realize a very ambitious agenda like the one that is in the African mining vision without this broad range of skills beyond the traditional mining skills. But I agree with you that capacity to enforce these plans, code standards is a key component of what I'm proposing here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry we've run out of time now for further questions, but I hope you will avail yourself and catch up with the speakers where you can at the dinner or the rest of the conference tomorrow. I'd really like to thank Antonio, Ernesto and Peter for fantastic presentations.
Thank you very much, Mark. We're nearly to the end of an intellectually grueling day, I think, and you've done well to keep with it. We have a short amount of time for some just free discussion, and I know that there are a couple of people on the floor and upstairs who would like to ask a question or make a statement about what they've found out from today. And today we've heard about the strategies behind mining and extractives for development. We heard about what companies can do. We've had a very hard-hitting view from local community perspective. We've had case studies on realising the opportunities. We've heard about Afghanistan, we've heard about Mozambique, and we've had some industry perspectives. And we also heard about the new Revenue Watch Institute Resource Governance Index, which was very, very interesting and got fantastic potential. Our agenda session was again a very thought-provoking session to show that we still have a long way to go in terms of some gender equity relating to mining. And then a session on developing human capacity, which again was very interesting. So thank you to all of our speakers and our chairs today. I think it's been a really worthwhile day and sets us up well for some detailed discussion tomorrow. Now, just following Twitter, there are a few questions about what next. We're going to need to think about that because we could have 2 days of talking and then not do much. And the really important thing is what we all take from this and then decide what we need to implement and do to actually keep mining and extractives for development progressing forward so we're doing a better and better job. So I don't think we should attempt to answer what next just yet, but we do need to answer it, and then we do need to hold ourselves and each other accountable for delivery. One of the issues that came up this morning, for me anyway, is there is a lot of activity in mining for development from both donor countries and in developing country governments. And one of the things for me is I don't think there's anybody in the world who can right now give you a really good definitive view of who is doing what where around mining for development. It may be well coordinated, it may not be, but in order to find out we need to understand what is going on. And I am pleased to say that the World Bank Institute has been undertaking a project to start mapping the activity in mining for development and to put that up on a website so that we can all see what's going on in different countries. We can, I hope, better coordinate and importantly understand what other places are doing so that we potentially can learn some lessons from that. So I'd like, Michael Jarvis is going to just talk to us for a few minutes about that project. And Michael, if you'd like to come up on the stage, Michael Jarvis from the World Bank Institute, just to introduce this project, and then I'll give you some instructions about dinner. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks to the organisers for this opportunity. It's going to be very brief because I know everyone's tired at the end of a long day. Exactly as Ian was laying out, I'm sure many of you are aware that it seems to be almost a new initiative every week in this sector. Is that a bad thing? Probably not. As we've heard today, there are so many issues that need to be addressed that I think there's room for all kinds of good programs to be going on. But it does present a challenge in terms of information sharing and potentially for coordination as well. So what we've been doing, and this is a project not just to the World Bank Institute and the World Bank, but with a host of partners, and many of them are represented in this room, which is the International Council of Mining and Metals, Rio Tinto, the World Economic Forum's Responsible Mineral Development Initiative, and the Extractive Industry Sourcebook, which involves a whole consortium of academic institutions who are leaders in this field, including those who are helping host this conference. And really all it does is it pulls together over 30 regional and global initiatives in extractive industries, the majority of which are in mining. And these are ones that are contributing, in theory, to good governance and sustainable development outcomes. What you don't have in here are programs. So it doesn't mean that every single bilateral donor program around extractive industries in here. We try to narrow it just to those that are sort of collaborative in nature and sort of cross-country initiatives that are sort of grander in their scope. But even just within that, you're around 35 already. And what you can do is you can search, and you'll see on the screen that there are a number of criteria, and the list goes down off the page. These are just sample screenshots. So you can plug in the things you're looking for, and it will give you a set of search results based off those in there. You can also search just by looking across the value chain. So we've used the World Bank's value chain for the mining sector, which is very similar to many others, have variants on this, but basically takes you through policy, legal frameworks, sector organization, fiscal issues, revenue management, and then sustainable development pieces at the end. And shows you for each of these 35 or so initiatives where they're operating along that value chain. You can then look and see where they're operating geographically. So it gives you a snapshot of who's in what regions around the world. And we hope to do this for all regions, but at least initially for the Africa region, we've also drilled down and shown you where they're operating by country. It's one of the things that they fill out when they respond to the survey and give us the information about what they do. And we started to show that geographically, at least for Africa, and that the other continents will follow soon. So it's just a starting point. I mean, it's going to give you a snapshot of each of these initiatives. This is a sample of sort of some of the information that you can see about each one, and it will give you a contact point and a website. So it only gets you so far, but I hope that it does, at least when you're coming to this space and thinking who does what where, this is at least a good starting point and hopefully a useful tool. And then the whole issue around where are the gaps and where are the overlaps is something that others can take and build on from this. But we're launching this today, taking advantage of this conference. So this is a new tool that literally goes live today. And we encourage you to use it, give us your feedback, and submit your own additional initiatives that aren't in here. And we commit, as the partners of this effort, to keep this updated as sort of public good that all can use. And finally, this is where you'll find it. And there are some postcards out there with the other materials which have more information and, again, have the website links so that you can play around. But I encourage you to use it, give us your feedback, and once again, thanks to the organizers for the chance to formally launch this today, and we look forward to probably yet more in there a year from now or at the next one of these conferences. Thanks very much.
And with that, I thank you for your attention. I apologise for not more discussion, but we will remedy that tomorrow, I promise. Thank you.